Welcome back to 1944 Lincoln Wheat Penny. What if a tiny 1-cent coin sitting inside an old jar, inherited collection, or forgotten box could be connected to one of the most important periods in American history? What if that ordinary-looking penny had a special mint mark, an unusual error, or survived nearly 80 years with remarkably sharp details? Today on Hardest Penny, we're taking a fascinating look at the 1944 Lincoln Wheat Penny, a classic American coin that continues to attract collectors because of its history, varieties, condition, and the possibility of finding an especially desirable example. Before you dismiss an old 1944 penny as nothing more than 1 cent, take a closer look. The date, mint mark, condition, color, and even a metal composition can completely change the story behind this little coin. 1944 Lincoln Wheat Penny. The 1944 Lincoln Wheat Penny belongs to the famous Lincoln Cent series that began in 1909. The obverse features the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln facing right, designed by Victor David Brenner. Above Lincoln is the word Liberty, while the motto, "In God We Trust," appears across the top. The date, 1944, is positioned in front of Lincoln's portrait, and depending on where the coin was produced, a small mint mark may appear beneath the date. The reverse carries the classic wheat cent design. 2 wheat ears frame the words 1 cent and United States of America, while E pluribus unum appears above. This design was used for decades, and today it is one of the most recognizable designs in American coin collecting. The year 1944 is particularly interesting because it occurred during World War II. The United States was heavily involved in the war, and the economy and manufacturing system were being influenced by wartime needs. Copper was an important strategic material, and the U.S. Mint had already experimented with different compositions during the war years. In 1943, Lincoln cents were famously struck primarily in zinc-coated steel to conserve copper for the war effort. But by 1944, the mint returned to a copper-based composition for regular Lincoln cents. This makes the 1944 penny especially interesting when discussing wartime coinage. The standard 1944 Lincoln Wheat Penny is made from a copper-based alloy and has the familiar reddish-brown or brown appearance that collectors associate with classic wheat cents. However, not every 1944 penny looks the same today. Environmental exposure, circulation, storage conditions, and previous handling can dramatically change the appearance of the copper surface. One of the first things you should check on a 1944 Lincoln Wheat Penny is the mint mark. Coins without a mint mark were produced at the Philadelphia Mint. A small D indicates production at the Denver Mint, while an S indicates production at the San Francisco Mint. These mint marks can be extremely important because different mintages and surviving populations influence collector demand. The Philadelphia 1944 issue had a very large production, while Denver and San Francisco also produced substantial numbers of 1944 Lincoln cents. Because of this, a normal circulated 1944 penny is not automatically rare simply because it is more than 80 years old. This is an important lesson for every new collector. Old does not always mean rare. A coin can be historically important and still be relatively common. What makes a coin exciting is the combination of date, mint mark, condition, rarity, variety, and demand. Condition is one of the biggest factors affecting the potential collectible value of a 1944 Lincoln Wheat Penny. A heavily circulated example may have significant wear across Lincoln's hair, cheek, jaw, and coat. On the reverse, the wheat stalks may appear smooth and parts of the lettering may show wear. But a sharply preserved example can look dramatically different. On a high-quality coin, Lincoln's hair details can remain clear, the lettering can be strong, and the wheat ears on the reverse can retain impressive detail. Collectors also pay close attention to the coin's surfaces. Deep scratches, dents, corrosion, stains, or cleaning marks can reduce desirability. Color is another fascinating factor. Copper Lincoln cents are often categorized by collectors as brown, red-brown, or red, depending on how much original reddish color remains. Never try to polish or chemically clean a 1944 wheat penny to make it appear brighter. Cleaning can lead whenever millions of coins are produced. The minting process can occasionally create unusual pieces. Collectors may look for doubled elements, die cracks, off-center strikes, clip planchets, and other abnormalities. However, identifying a genuine mint error requires careful examination. A scratch created after the coin left the mint is not a mint error. A damaged edge is not automatically a clip planchet. A blurry date is not necessarily a double die. This is why collectors should avoid jumping to conclusions based only on photographs or viral claims online. The 1944 Lincoln cent also has another fascinating connection to the famous 1943 copper cent. Because the mint had been striking steel cents in 1943, some collectors naturally wonder whether unusual 1944 cents could exist with the wrong metal composition. Genuine wrong planchet or transitional errors can be extremely interesting, but they are exceptionally scarce and require professional authentication. This is where the story of the 1944 bronze cent becomes particularly fascinating. Genuine examples associated with unusual planchets are among the major rarities collectors discuss when studying wartime Lincoln cents. However, because famous rarities attract counterfeiters and altered coins, authentication is absolutely critical. If someone claims to have a spectacular 1944 error penny, do not immediately believe a social media post or an online price estimate. A professional grading and authentication service can determine whether the coin is genuine and whether its characteristics are consistent with an authentic mint error. For ordinary collectors, the best approach is simple. Preserve the coin exactly as you found it. Document both sides with clear photographs, and seek expert evaluation if something looks genuinely unusual. Weight can also be a useful screening tool. A standard Lincoln cent from this period has a specific expected weight and diameter. If a coin appears to be made from an unusual metal or planchet, its weight can provide an important clue. But weight alone cannot prove an error. A counterfeit, altered coin, or damaged coin can produce confusing results. A digital scale accurate to at least hundredths of a gram can help collectors perform an initial check, but professional testing may still be necessary. Another important feature to inspect is the edge. Look for unusual thickness, missing metal, or irregular shapes. A genuine minting error can have characteristics that differ from damage caused after circulation. Again, careful examination is essential. The history behind the 1944 Lincoln wheat penny makes it more than just a collectible object. Imagine the United States in 1944. The country was deeply involved in World War II. Factories were producing military equipment, families were following news from overseas, and millions of Americans were contributing to the war effort. The penny moving through everyday commerce during that period was part of a much larger historical story. That is one of the reasons wheat cents remain so popular. They provide a physical connection to the past. A 1944 penny may have been used at a grocery store, carried by a worker, placed into a vending machine, or saved by a child. Decades later, it could end up in your collection. Every mark on a circulated coin may represent another chapter in its journey. If you discover a 1944 Lincoln wheat penny, start by identifying the mint mark. Then examine the overall condition. Look at Lincoln's portrait, the date, the lettering, and the wheat stalks. Check for unusual doubling, cracks, missing metal, or other features. Finally, avoid cleaning the coin. If the coin looks ordinary and circulated, it can still be a wonderful addition to a wheat penny collection. If it appears exceptionally well preserved or has a strange characteristic, further research may be worthwhile. Collectors should also remember that market value changes depending on grade, appeal, rarity, and demand. The biggest mistake you can make with an old coin is assuming its value from the date alone. A 1944 Lincoln wheat penny can be common in circulated condition, yet exceptional examples, unusual varieties, and authenticated errors can attract much more attention. That difference is exactly what makes coin hunting so exciting. So the next time you search through an old collection, don't rush past the 1944 Lincoln wheat penny. Pick it up carefully, look at the date, check for a mint mark, study the surfaces, inspect the details, and consider whether the coin has been naturally preserved. You could be holding a small piece of World War II era American history. And here at Hardest Penny, that is what makes coin collecting so exciting. It is not simply about finding a coin that might be worth money. It is about discovering history, understanding the mint, learning how condition affects collectability, recognizing genuine errors, and appreciating the stories hidden inside ordinary pocket change. So check your old jars, inherited collections, coin rolls, and forgotten drawers. Look carefully before you spend an old penny. The next coin you examine could have a fascinating story waiting to be discovered. The 1944 Lincoln wheat penny may look small, but its history is anything but small. From wartime America to modern collecting, this little copper coin has traveled through generations. And while most examples will not make you rich, the right combination of rarity, condition, originality, and authentication can make certain pieces truly special. Remember, never clean a potentially valuable coin, never trust an unbelievable valuation without verification, and never ignore an unusual detail. Sometimes the difference between an ordinary old penny and a highly desirable collectible is hidden in the smallest detail. This is Hardest Penny, where every date has a story, every mint mark matters, and every old coin deserves a second look.